Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Live. And so as I've been setting myself up here as for a little dip in the morning pool of Facebook Live. It's kind of like I used to have a hot tub, and my uncle gave it to me. It was about the size of a large. It was a two-person tub. It was large for two people to lie in, and I put it on my deck, and my uncle had got it. He was in his 80s at the time, and he had a girlfriend, and he bought it so he and his girlfriend would get in the tub, but she didn't like it. So he said, "You want this hot tub?" So we went down there and got it and put it on. And for about it was for about 4 years, every morning I would go out in the dark, winter and summer, and get in that hot tub, and then finally it just kind of like started breaking down, and I got tired of it, and I think the last time it had a cover on it, and so as the water was in it and everything, and I was sitting on the back, I said, well, maybe I'll get in the hot tub tomorrow morning, but let me check the tub. And I opened the top, one of the flaps, and the ants had made a nest all around the rim of the tub under that flap. And I thought, my God, if I'd come out here in the morning and gotten in this thing, and I'd got in the tub and I put my head back on the thing, and suddenly my head would be full of ants. Imagine how that would feel. So anyway, I digress. So this morning, it's an unusual combination. I meditate upstairs, and I come down at 6 o'clock, and I'll turn on Morning Joe, and I get a cup of coffee, and I get my book that whatever I'm reading currently, which is right now I'm reading Ken Wilber's Simple Feeling of Being, and Ken Wilber is a soaring writer. I mean, he can soar. He can really soar to the like Icarus, all the way up to the sun, and but he didn't burn up. And so I have that with one hand, and then on the other, Morning Joe will be going, and Trump will be talking. And how can I put these together? These are like two different. One, I'm reading about the mystical flights of spirit. And the other, I'm descending down into this hell of politics and everyday world and confusion and angst and anger and the ripping apart of the Constitution, and the fabric of America is being unraveled. And then on the other hand, I'm reading I'm soaring up to the heights. How can I put these two together? Ascending and descending, heaven, hell. How can I put heaven and hell together? Well, let's look. Okay. Well, anyway, it's Thursday. All right, that. Thursday. Okay. Live. It's Thursday morning. So, well, let me read something from Ken Wilber that I was just reading this morning, and this kind of like gave me a bam when the two opposites came together. And he's talking about ascending and descending spirit. God is spirit, not so. So he's talking about God as spirit, and he's talking about ascending, and he's talking about descending. Okay, the masculine face of spirit, or God, is preeminently eros, the ascending and transcendental current of the cosmos. Ever striving, I better put this on or I'll thing will dry out. Ever striving to find greater wholeness and wider unions, to break the limits and reach to the sky, to rise to unending revelations of a greater good and a glory, always rejecting the shallower in search of the deeper, rejecting the lower in search of the higher. And the feminine face of God, the goddess, is preeminently agape, or compassion, the descending and eminent and manifesting current of the cosmos. The principle of embodiment and bodily incarnation, and relationship and relational and manifest embrace, rejecting nothing, embracing all, where Eros strives for the good of the one in transcendental wisdom, agape embraces the many with goodness and eminent grace or care. Okay. Now, if you notice something, if you put these two together, it looks like that. Now this is a symbol, archetypical symbol. It's also the Star of David. But when I first encountered these two ascending and descending, it was through the East. When I began to practice yoga in 1970, I was introduced to Indian mythology, Indian philosophy, yoga. And in yoga, the two are really, you got the philosophy that soars, Upanishads, thou art that, to the reaches of the sky. And you have the Shakti, the descending energy. Shiva is going up, Shakti coming down. And you put them together, Shiva, Shakti. So this yoga of it's called Kashmir Shaivism, but it's non-dual. It puts the goddess and goddess together. The parents have been divorced, and it puts them back together. Mommy and daddy are together. You see. But in the West, we have this trouble with divorce. Mommy and daddy don't like to stay together. You see. So, even today, all right, so let me get this, take this here. So this is, okay. Okay. Now this is supposed to be crawling up there, all right? Okay, he's crawling up. All right, this is wisdom. So Buddha goes up the mountain to enlightenment, and then he comes down the mountain to compassion. This is a story way of showing the spiritual path. This is asceticism. Okay, in other words, the going up, the ascent, the eros, is usually manifested as an ascetic movement, a denial of sex, the denial of the world of flesh. You become a monk. You become a vegetarian. You do penance, or you do spiritual disciplines. You stop drinking. And when I first started with yoga, the teacher said, "Oh, you want to be a yoga student? Okay. Stop drinking, stop smoking, stop eating meat. Do this meditation, this japa, and do these asanas, and come back and see me in a year." She was in Cleveland and I was in Virginia. And I said, "Great, I love it." And it all fell off. That's an ascetic thing. You deny your pleasures. You perform disciplines. You jog every day. You regulate your diet. In other words, you start to put a halter on the gobbling up of the flesh and the pleasures of life. You see, that's the ascetic movement, because you're going towards. You want to be lighter. You want to go towards wisdom. To the one. You see, the one is upward. But then We get stuck that way. We get stuck in just the upward one, you see. And we become a fundamentalist, and we become a rigid literalist. We reject the goddess, you see. And the goddess is coming this way, to the many. So you see here, you have an upward and a descent, an ascent and a descent. And we separate them. This is the god, this is the god, this is the goddess. The goddess, mothers, oh, we all know this, mothers embrace all the children. Compassionately, there's no judgment with a mother. You got a tall kid, you got a short kid, you got a fat kid, you got a thin kid. I love all my kids. I embrace them. I keep expanding. Come on in. I'll adopt you. I'll take in you. This is a foster home. We'll take in everybody. The disabled, the well, the smart, the dumb, the whole thing. That's the compassion. That's the many. That's the goddess. The embrace. And the male god, the goddess, is going towards the one. He's ascending. He's going towards the one. Let there be one. The commandment of life is basically one commandment. Let there be one. And where we get confused, where this divorce happens, okay, is that we separate the two, because we have to obey the commandment, let there be one, and we interpret that as one, like one, okay? Let there be one. So that is a ascent towards the one. Let there be one, number one. And you can see Trump here, America's number one. We're going to ascend to, we're going to discover, reveal, restore number one. This is an ascent. We're going to find, we're going to create, we're going to restore the one, you see, number one. And number one is one because it's here. You see, number one is at the top of the ascent. And then you got all the other numbers down here, right? To infinity, whatever that is. All right, but number one is the one, you see, and all the many is down here. But this is also the descent. The goddess is also the fulfilling of the commandment, let there be one. But for the goddess, the one is the many. The one is the whole. The whole. You see, and it's the one. The one that includes everything is the one. The one that excludes everything is the one. So you've got the search of the God. You've got the driving force of the cosmos in these ascent and descent, in the God and the goddess of spirit, you see. One's going up towards the one, one's coming down towards the one as the many. And we separate them. But we can see this in our politics. So let's getting back to my dilemma this morning, where I had Ken Wilber and the mystical readings and the flight and the soaring on one hand, and the descent into the Morning Joe and the news and the Trump and all that, you see. How do we bring these together? Well, what does Trump represent? Now, see, this is where in order to understand Trump, for me, I have to disconnect Trump from the context of the immediate news of the day, and like Rachel Maddow, connect the dots to a bigger picture. If you watch Rachel Maddow, that's why she is so popular and important to watch. She's kind of like a political Jon Stewart. She is. Jon Stewart made his became so important because he connected the dots of the media, and he would look at Fox News and connect the dot and show the pattern of Fox News instead of just the daily content. In other words, he would show the recipe instead of just today's meal, you see. And so Rachel Maddow does that too. She connects the dots of the pattern of Trump instead of just focusing on today's tweet. Okay, little digression there. So what is going on with Trump, and who is he appealing to? He's appealing to the ascent. He's appealing to the male God. He's appealing to the fulfilling of the commandment of let there be one. America is number one. So he's translating metaphorically, mythologically, the language of God and the search for wisdom and the one into politics, into the field of politics. So this is why his messaging made him won the campaign, because he was communicating a spiritual truth in a political field. And he was personalizing by saying, I will restore you. I alone am the most honored one. This is what Buddha said when he awoke. Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the most honored one. So basically Trump was saying, throughout heaven and earth, throughout all history, I alone can restore number one, can restore America to its greatness of being number one, which is the fulfillment of the commandment of life itself. Let there be one, you see. But you see, he makes the fatal flaw of getting divorced from the goddess, you see. And so she is over here, right? And you can see how our politics has divorced these two. This has become the liberal, and this has become the conservative. Right? These are both, liberal and conservative, have become spiritual teachings or spiritual forces. I won't say teachings, they've become spiritual. These are the ascent and descent, the God and the goddess, are not words. It's not a philosophy. It's life. It's what we do this all the time in our marriages. It's always, these two forces are working all the time to restore balance. And they're always a little off. They're always jockeying. You get married, you got the goddess and the god. And they're always jockeying to create that, you see. This is, that, you see, is balance. That is the marriage. That is the divine, the heavenly marriage. When these two forces are one. In Zen, it's called form is emptiness, emptiness is form. This is empty. The ascent is going towards emptiness and wisdom. The descent is going towards form and the many. The whole of life is the struggle to bring these two to get married, to bring these two together, so they work as one. Like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers when they dance. When they dance, they are in sync. It's like a basketball team being in the zone. When a basketball team is in the zone, here they are, right there. That's balance. That is flow. That is timing. When these two get together, you have timing. Everything works. And you are at one with the world. You're no longer chasing wisdom and avoiding compassion. You are wisdom / compassion. Heaven and earth are one. Here, you see. But we separate them. And it's really powerful separation in America. For some reason, we are a spiritual battleground for these two forces. And you can really see it everywhere. if you know how to see it in this context. Get rid of the LBGT. Get rid of the many. You see, I got to get back on my path towards the one by excluding some more of the many. Well, we're going to exclude the Muslims, going to exclude the immigrants, going to exclude the women, going to exclude the gays and the LGBT, and that's the path to the one. You see, is by getting rid of the goddess. Get rid of these women. Demean them. Grab their pussy. See what I mean? The language is ascent only, the masculine ascent, which is being performed at the exclusion of the descent. So naturally, the liberals are going to be the evil ones. You see, naturally, you can't compromise with women, or excuse me, with liberals. You see, because the male is on top and the women are on the bottom. So this is like a cosmic split here between these two forces. And they cannot be repressed. You cannot repress the goddess. You cannot repress this force of the universe. You can't repress life, you see. So this is a failed philosophy. It is a failed ascent. So we're looking back here and trying to understand how the Trump and what we're going through right now is really a divorce or a reenactment in form in our present historical life of the battle between these two forces in our culture that are struggling to find balance, to be one, to mother and daddy to get back together because the kids are crying. The kids don't want a divorce between these two principles. The children know how devastating it is when God and goddess don't sleep in the same bed. You see? When they live apart. So this whole, as I look at this, the more it makes this whole complex mess, become very clear. And it tells us what we need to do and why we're getting so screwed up. And this is not Trump's doing. Trump is a manifestation or an incarnation. That's interesting. Okay. So in the Eastern philosophies, and in the Christian too, is that when the world gets in trouble, a Savior will come. This is in all the major religions. And it's also in your own personal life. When you get in trouble, if you ask, if your heart opens, help will come. A Savior will come. It doesn't mean Jesus. It just means something will manifest that will restore balance, you see. So, this country, since the rise of movement conservatism, has been split between the ascending and the descending forces of nature. And so it's split into these two, liberal and conservative sides. The conservative strength has been in the ascent towards the one, towards wisdom. Conservatives were always the intellectual, the wise party, the male party, the intellectual, the rational party. And the Democrats were always passionate crowds, workers, the people, the mobs, the riots. You see, and when that happened in the 60s, and the liberals broke up into the democratic riots and the civil rights and all of the stuff of the 60s. And then the conservative hand came back down. Daddy's hand came back down in the 70s, and the 70s was a mess. You see, nobody knows who they are, my male or female. Everybody looked to, men had long hair. And had flashy clothes, and you had the rise of all of these passionate new rights, women, blacks, gays, everything crazy. The many was in going crazy. The many had no head. The many had no father. Father was gone, and so Reagan came back and said, "Daddy's here. Daddy's here, folks. We're gonna bring some order back into this mess. We're gonna bring all this big family of crazy hippie druggies, and we're gonna bring Dirty Harry back in here, and we're gonna put John Wayne back in order here, and we're gonna restore order, and lock them up. Lock them up. You see, throw away the key. 3 strikes, you're out, kid. Stay in there for life. You know, we're tough love." Tough love. Get the hell out of the house. You can't get a job? Get out of the house. Tough love. And so that became the conservative, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's what happened. Because it was crazy in the 70s. But what happens when it goes too far, you see? Well, the many comes back. The goddess comes back. She will not be put down. She will persist. She will resist. She will speak. She will regain, she will take her rightful place in the throne next to the God, you see. She will not be divorced. She will not be separated. The many do have a voice. And so now you see this kickback here. So how does Trump fit into this, you see? Where does Trump come from? Where did this guy come from? What the hell has happened to us? It was all kind of like philosophical. You know, the conservative and the liberals. And I know I grow up here. I not grow up here, but I landed here in Southside Virginia in 1980. And I came here like a yogi missionary, going to like a Christian missionary goes to China to convert the heathens. And I was a yogi missionary. I'd been to the ashram and got the blessing of a guru, and I was coming here to convert the heathens to what? To the ascending path towards wisdom. You see, so I was a wisdom seeker, not a compassion seeker. I was a soaring seeker. I was philosophical. I could soar, you see. So I was going towards the one. But anyway, I came to this flatland here, and it's primarily a conservative community. It is a patriarchal ascent community towards the one that has been separated from the liberal many. So even today, you look in the local paper, and you have editorials and op-ed opinions. It's all conservative. And liberals are still, even though Obama's gone, even though Clinton is gone, liberals are still written up and portrayed as this devaluing, this mob, this unable to govern force, you see, the goddess. She must be kept down. The liberals, the goddess, the Democrats, this descending embrace of the many must be rejected. So you just embrace the one, which is us. You see, us, we're the one. And in order to have us as the one, you have to have a wall and say, exclude that, you see. So the mere fact that you say, I am the one and you're not the one, that is a exclusive force. That is this force here. This force goes up the ladder, by stepping on those that can't climb, by excluding. It's a reductionist movement. It's a reductionist towards the one, you see. I got to eliminate all the other numbers and get to number one. There is only number one, but I got to eliminate 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 20, 30, infinity. You see how reductionist that is? Where this way is going towards the one. There's both going towards the one, but this is going towards the one as the whole. Both are one. One is here. It's the irreducible point. You see, I am the one, and the other one is the many. That includes all the points. Both are the one, but they are going in opposite directions. They're both different views, a head and a tail view of the same coin. So you have a coin that's got heads and tails. The heads is the one that is a single one. The tail is the one that includes everything. It's the same coin, but we have split the coin. So we think the one is me, my group, my values is the one, and now all the other values are threats. In the other liberal view, the descending view, it says everything is okay, everything is the one, but it has no head. You see, the father and the mother must stay in the same bed, must stay in the same embrace, you see. If you get separated, if you separate the two, you get discord, confusion, you create hell on earth. You create hell when these two forces are at war with each other. You have the War of the Roses. I remember that movie, which was about a divorced couple who kept up in the ante until they destroyed the whole house. Yeah. So I think you can see that Trump is the mythological personification of the ascent towards the one through exclusion. So whenever he feels threatened, he has to pick up a new enemy and exclude it. Today it's the LGBT or secessions or whatever. His ascent is on the bodies of those he steps on. That's the path of that's the path of reduction. I reduce my enemies. You see, because so you see what I mean? His voice, he personified in his flesh and blood. He made the word flesh and blood by saying, I am the one, and I'm going to make you number one too if you get under my tent. You get on my boat, you get on my ferry boat, and I'll take you to the other side and we'll be the one. And then you'll be satisfied. Then you'll be satisfied, you see. Because there will be nobody else but us. We'll be number one, and we will excluded, put a wall around, and kept out all of these many other voices, you see. The clamoring crowd, these liberals, you see. The cry of the many. We'll exclude that. So there's just one voice. That'll be your voice and my voice together, and I'll be your voice for you, you see. So this is a personification of a mythic embodiment of this ascent that is divorced from compassion. Poor old Mr. Bush, remember, he tried to heal the thing. Okay, we're going to have compassionate conservatism. How long did that last? So you really have to see that these great cosmic forces are playing in the field of America. America is the field where these cosmic eternal forces are at war with each other to be whole again. Restoring America means when these two forces become one force in balance. There's always going to be discord. There's always going to be a dynamic tension between the two. There's always going to be a dynamic play between wife and husband. But there's always laughter behind it. At the end of the day, you have a drink together. At the end of the day, the Democrats and the Republicans go to a bar and have a drink. And they laugh about the fight they had during the day. You see. But not now. Not now, you see. The marriage has become spiteful and vengeful. You see. And it cannot last because you cannot keep these cosmic forces apart. So they either come together or the whole country just explodes. They either come together or you either come together by transcendence and create, you know, when a man and a woman gets married, they come together and they create a new world. They create a family. And they create a baby, which is a new being, you see, a new one. So when these two get together, you create a new America. And we don't know what it is, just like the parents don't know what the baby's going to be. You can dream, but you don't know who he's going to be. Has its own life. So this has to come together so we can create a new America, and we don't know really what it will look like. We don't really know who it will be. But it will be a whole America, a creative America, an America that transcends the division and the divorce we're in right now. So all of this stuff we see on TV going on, the Trumps and all of this stuff, and the talking heads and the argument and the confusion and the puzzlement, what in the hell is going on, you see? I hope this kind of like gives us a little bit of a wider angle so we can see the forces of God. God is God and Goddess. Not just God, God and Goddess. Ascent and descent. Wisdom and compassion. It takes two wings for the bird to fly. Wisdom and compassion. If it doesn't have one wing, it's going to flap with one wing and it's going to fly in a circle. And so we're trying to flap with one wing here and we're going in a circle, and we know it. And we know it. So thank you for dropping in, and I'll see you this evening, maybe at martini time. We know. Depends on if something wants to say something. So, see you later.